Greetings everyone, and on today's episode we're going to be discussing a topic that I really do feel needs to be discussed a lot more within the Bond community, and something that actually I really wanted to chat about for a long time, which is essentially this. Why isn't there more female villains in the Bond franchise? And my whole video on that is starting right now. Rosa Klebb, Xena Onatopp and Electra King. I think these three particular villains in the Bond franchise are some of the best we've ever had. I think Funky as and Xena Onatopp as a henchwoman is one of the best, if not the best, henchman in the entire James Bond series. Rosa Klebb was an absolutely amazing villainess who really still today stands the test of time in the whole Bond pantheon. And of course Electra King was the, if you will, master manipulator from The World's Not Enough. And all of these villains I think are really interesting and in-depth. And actually they're probably truly the true three Bond villains who have been women in the franchise. Now we have had other people like Fiona Volpe as well, but those three are the really three main ones a lot of people think about. And my answer to that is, why is it only three? I've often wondered, why doesn't the Bond franchise do more with female villainesses? Are we missing a beat here? I think so strongly we should have more female villains in the franchise, and that is the topic of today's video that I want to discuss with you. I really want to deep dive and look at why aren't there more female villains in the franchise. I really want to discuss that, but before we get into that, everyone, can I ask already, if you haven't, do give us a like, comment and subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,000 viewers before the end of the year, so if you can help us, that would be absolutely amazing. Without that all being said, let's dive into, I think, my first point about female villains in the Bond franchise. So on a more superficial level, I just want to talk a bit about here that we need probably a bit more, shall we say, in the villains of Bond, a bit more diversity and representation, because this is where one of the big things I feel we're missing an absolute beat. My first reason really about diversity and representation and embracing more female villains in the Bond franchise is I do feel there is a dire need for them. Over the years, the 007 films had primarily showcased male villains often falling into very traditional stereotypical tropes. By introducing complex and powerful female villains, the franchise can embrace, I feel, a much more diversity, breaking away from traditional gender roles and adding more depth to the narratives. For me, I don't think you can deny that when we've had female villains in the Bond franchise, they've been some of the more interesting, more in-depth villains than I think a lot of the others had. I think when you bring female villains into a franchise, you allow to create new different stories, new different characters, which again will help, in my opinion, the Bond franchise by allowing it to do different things and portray different things as well with that. My next reason is really about actually subverting expectations. For me, the James Bond movies have always thrived on, if you will, subverting expectations and constantly reinventing itself. It loves it when it can do something new with the whole franchise, and we all seem to really love it. When we see the franchise evolve, introducing strong, capable female characters like M, when Judi Dench took over, and even Bond girls who have advanced throughout the years, thank God, female villains would be the next, in my opinion, logical step in progression. It would challenge the audience's perceived notions and breathe fresh air into stories. For me, the whole subverting expectations really just drives down to that Judi Dench casting as M. She is always my M. I love Judi Dench as M. She'll always be my favourite M. And I think her subverting expectations of what we perceive as M really did move the franchise forward and give us something new and freshing. So that is, to me, another important reason why we need more female villains in the franchise, because it will allow us to have different reactions, different opinions to things. I think when we're going to have basically a brand new era of James Bond coming up, having much more of a female villain representation will also very much separate it from previous incarnations and allow a different set of stories and perspectives to be given on the films as well. Just the more I think about it, the more I just think, why has it been that we haven't had that many female villains yet? Female villains, as far as I'm concerned, can also bring a whole new level of complexity and depth to the new future James Bond films by exploring the motivations, their vulnerabilities, the strengths and weaknesses of these characters. The writers can craft compelling narratives that transcend simple good versus evil dynamics. Just as we've seen with male villains, female antagonists can have intricate backstories, complex relationships, and even personal connections with Bond himself, leading to a thought-provoking character dynamics. Let's face it, one of the most clear examples of that is the whole Electra King in The World's Not Enough. Electra King was, if you will, the master manipulator of all villains in the Bond franchise, and she manipulated Bond just as well. And that is something we had never seen before to that day, and actually, I feel, to this day, still hasn't been repeated or done differently in any sort of way. That's what really makes Electra King stand out as one of the great Bond villains, is because of the fact that she was a woman. It allowed you to do so much and so different things with a character who, if it was a man, it just wouldn't have worked. And also, just on that note about complexity and depth, I think for a lot of movie fans, we've seen a lot of the male character arcs. We've seen different variations of what a man could be within the sort of spy genre, the action thriller. And even though we've had some really great representation in, well, action heroes and action heroines, specifically like Alien Ripley and Xena Warrior Princess, and so many others I could just go into so much, I think it's now time to really start showing the other side of that coin, the complexities and depth of potential female villains. Oh, just the more I talk about it, the more I think it's such a brilliant idea. Finally, and probably actually most importantly in my eye, including more female villains could provide an opportunity to showcase, for me, some incredible talented actresses that we have in the industry that are countless skilled performers who have proven their mettle in various different genres, as the Bond franchise could provide a platform for them to shine in powerful, memorable roles. Just as male actors have left indelible marks as iconic Bond villains, I really do feel strongly it is now high time that we see female counterparts rise to the occasion. When I talk about that, I really do think of these great actors like Emma Thompson, Helena Bonham Carter, Cate Blanchett, and there's so many others I could really just list off right at the back now, who I think would be incredible female villains. They would be absolutely amazing. They would be such iconic villains, I feel, potentially, if written well and given great characters in the whole Bond franchise. Do you know what? There's some other really great, amazing female actresses I think could be just truly 10 out of 10 high god tier Bond villains. I'm talking about people like Meryl Streep, Jennifer Lawrence, Charlize Theron, Cate Blanchett, and even actually on the note, Kate Winslet. I don't know if you've seen the films, but I really love the first two Divergent movies where Kate Winslet played the villain in those films, and oh my god, she was absolutely amazing. I remember just watching this thinking, why are you not a Bond villain? You would literally be so incredible. We've even had more representation of villainesses in the James Bond video games. One of my favourite video games, Agent Under Fire, the main villain is actually a lady called Malprey, and she was an absolutely terrific character, an amazing tour de force when it comes to being a James Bond villain. I think one of the issues people do have with a female villain is the sort of notion that, yes, as Bond is the hero, he will have to kill the villain in some form of capacity, and that could mean potentially shooting a woman or throwing her down a drain pipe or exploding her. And what message could that actually give to audiences? For that, I have to say, I think these people who say that are assuming that the audiences are stupid. No matter what gender you are, whether you're the hero or the villain, if the villain's there, you've got to end up killing them. People expect the villain to die at an end to the movie and the hero to defeat that person. And I don't think many people would still scream and saying, well, Bond's now shooting women, we can't allow this. They will be going, this lady's got to go, she's going to destroy the world. Bond, you've got to save the day here. I really think that people who think the other way to that are not really seeing it the way I think most people. I think they're just seeing their view on it and not accepting other people would have a view on that as well. So everyone, that is my thoughts on why I think we need more female villains in the James Bond franchise. Essentially, it just boils down to an untapped resource of amazing actors actresses who could really develop and create whole new villains, the likes I think we have never seen in the Bond franchise. I feel we need this desperately, and we need to get these great actresses into the Bond franchise somehow. But I want to know, what are your thoughts and opinion about this? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I want to know. Comment down below and tell me your own thoughts and opinions on this. As always, everyone, my name's Henry Stevens, and I'm the Bond Geek. Goodbye.